Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. Once again, it's been a long time since I've made one, but anyway, I've decided to do obviously the Planet of the Apes franchise. We have 10 movies to go through today. I thought this would be a good one because I've pretty much covered a lot of the directors I really like and franchises and things like that. However, I recently got around to watching all the original Planet of the Apes films, the original 5, as well as the new film Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, as well as rewatching a couple of the other ones that I had maybe only seen once or twice in the past. So now I'm fairly well versed in all the films, having seen pretty much all of them in the last couple of weeks. And so we're going to get into it, ranking them in order from when they first came out to the most recent films. So as I said, we have 10 in all. I won't be including the TV series or anything like that, as I haven't seen them, just the 10 feature films. And it's a very mixed bag for me. There's films in this franchise that I love. There's others that I think are really good and underrated. And there's a couple that I just think are pretty terrible. So it's got a wide range of films that range from, pretty great to pretty awful. So we'll get straight into it with the very first film. So the original Planet of the Apes is a really solid movie. As I said, I hadn't really seen any of these original 5 films before. I knew of obviously famous scenes from the first film and quotes and things like that, but I'd never watched it. So I was pretty excited to see it. And to be honest, I really liked it a lot. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I think it holds up quite well, especially for a film from 1968. Obviously, you have to go into it with a certain extent of how it's going to look, because obviously they don't look like real apes. They're people with prosthetic masks on, and you can tell that's quite obvious. But if you just go with it, like, you actually get quite an original and fun film. Charlton Heston's really good here. He gives quite a dramatic performance and quite over the top at times, but it was a really enjoyable film, because it really seemed to blend just being like a big kind of blockbuster sci-fi entertaining adventure film with deeper morals and themes that ran throughout the movie, and it really balanced it well in a way that none of its sequels really managed to do in the original run. But that first film, it surprised me quite a bit. I didn't love it, but I did like it a lot, and was very impressed for the time that it was made and for how well it was done. Roddy McDowall, who plays Cornelius, was great in the film. And Vera, or Zira, I think, the girl one, she's really good too. So it had a great cast of characters. A few of them remained for the next few films, but the first film was really more like spot on with its casting and themes and action and all that. It kind of just went downhill a bit from there in the originals. So that's the first film. We next got Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which is considered one of the worst films in the franchise to most people. I didn't think it was awful. I'm going to put it in the C tier. It wasn't good, but I don't think it was awful. It kind of spends the first half of the film retreading the original film with a new character called Brent, who's looking for Charlton Heston's character, who comes into the movie at the end. But it kind of goes off the rails a bit when we go to this underground society of mutant people who are worshipping this atomic bomb. And it just kind of comes out of left field. So it doesn't really feel natural or like where the story should progress to. But at the same time, I enjoy that these films spend time in this planet, in this part of the future. The next couple of films are set in the 70s back on like our Earth in the 70s, so they kind of feel a bit less Planet of the Apes-ish, if that makes sense, whereas the first 2 films take place in that same far-off futuristic time period. So I did enjoy Beneath the Planet of the Apes, probably more than most people. Again, I didn't love it, but I thought it was okay and it was watchable. But as I said, the second half of the film, or the last part of the film more so, it kind of just petered out and ended on a sour note. Next we have Escape from the Planet of the Apes. This is often considered the best sequel to the original film of the original 5. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was watchable. I probably would put it on par with Beneath, maybe just above. It felt quite inconsequential throughout most of the film, where it was very much a light-hearted romp with like some comedy and things like fish out of water comedy thrown in. And then it gets quite dark and serious at the very end, like it ramps up and ends abruptly the way that Beneath the Planet of the Apes does. But it was kind of cool to see them go back in time after the planet explodes and go back to the 70s and kind of have the reverse effect of what Charlton Heston's character had in the first film. So that was interesting. And again, it was okay. I know people would probably put this one higher. I'm not a huge fan of it though. Like, it was okay. But yeah, I wouldn't rave about any of the original film sequels, to be honest. So the fourth in the original franchise is Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. This personally is my least favorite in the whole series, and I really disliked it a lot. I'm going to put it in the F tier. It was really bad in my opinion. So we focus on the ape child of Cornelius and Zira here, who changes his name to Caesar. Obviously we have Caesar in the new franchise, but this is kind of the original version of that, I guess. And in this Conquest film, it's kind of when the apes are beginning their uprising, because at this point in time they are being, held captive and used as slaves pretty much. So Caesar's kind of starting to fight back against that. But the movie just felt extremely cheap and extremely dull and boring. There was nothing I liked about it at all. Roddy McDowall's back in all these films, but he's playing his son in this film and the next one as well. So that was kind of interesting to see, although it kind of feels like the same character in a lot of ways. But there was unfortunately nothing I enjoyed about Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, so it's in the F tier. And then the film that ended the franchise here is Battle for the Planet of the Apes. I thought it was only slightly better than Conquest, in my opinion, so I'll put it in the D tier. The film is still extremely poor and cheap. Like, the masks at this point just look terrible, like where you can tell they were trying with the first film and they actually were succeeding for the time period to be able to make it look realistic and as movable as possible. By this fifth film, they're pretty much just wearing like string-on masks around the face, and it looks terrible. I liked the setting of it being more kind of like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, where we're a bit more in the future now. Humans and apes are trying to get along, and there's more of this forest jungle setting, but at the same time, it didn't feel like a big epic scale film. As I said, the budget was very small, and you can tell that here. It's supposed to be the big final battle, but it's very small and very weak. None of the characters were likable or interesting either. But yeah, I did enjoy it slightly more than Conquest, but that's really not saying much. So next up we have the 2001 remake, Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. This is the film that originally introduced me to the franchise because I'm a big Tim Burton fan. I grew up with his films. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. And so I hadn't seen the films before it or since this one came out originally. Like, I just grew up with this one, so this was my only experience. However, I actually really enjoy this film. It's a guilty pleasure, I know. Most people put this film at the bottom of the list, and honestly, I don't think it's that bad. Like, yeah, you've got Mark Wahlberg, who's probably really miscast in the role, but other than that, like, yeah, and some of the corny dialogue and stuff like that, the production design's incredible. The makeup is incredible on the apes. Danny Elfman's music is really good. The costume design, the set designs, the whole look of the film is really solid and really an upgrade from the original franchise. It follows a lot of plot beats from the first film without copying it, because we get quite a few differences in there, especially when it comes to the ending, which people think is stupid, but it's actually more in line with the original book, apparently. I haven't read it, but I've heard that that's how the book ends, so you can't really blame the writers for kind of coming up with that ending when it's in the book. So I've always enjoyed it. I'm going to put it in the B tier. People might hate that I've put it above all these other four films, but to be honest, I actually really enjoy it, and I hadn't watched it for a while, so I thought I'll go back and watch it, and I did early today, and I wasn't expecting to maybe like it as much, but I still think it's a solid movie. Like, it's not great or perfect by any means, but I think as far as a remake or a reimagining goes, 30 years after the original, it's pretty good for all the reasons that I mentioned, but yeah. So I know I'm going to be one of the only people who defends that film, but I do like it. So now moving into the more modern era of Planet of the Apes, which we kicked off with Rise of the Planet of the Apes in 2011 as part of the new trilogy, the Caesar trilogy. I rewatched this one a couple of weeks ago because this is one I hadn't seen for years. And I remember liking it. I don't remember loving it or anything, but I do think it's a really good film and a really good introduction to the franchise and a good introduction to the character of Caesar, who really becomes this epic hero throughout the trilogy. And it's good to see him progress, because in the first film, he's really just kind of like a teenager who's, he just wants to get out and be free. But then, even throughout just the length of the first film here, we see him develop from a kid to a teenager to a young adult who is, starting this uprising and this rise with the apes. And it's a really good film, and it's a good way to kind of reinitiate the Planet of the Apes franchise for like a modern audience. I'm going to put it in the B tier as well, but I'm going to put it above the remake. Yeah, I think I'll put it there. I do like it a lot. I think people are going to hate also that I put it on par with the Tim Burton film, but again, I really like both of them. I think they're both solid. So next up we have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. These next two films were directed by Matt Reeves, who's a great director. He did The Batman as well and Let Me In. But yeah, these two are often considered the best in the franchise, and I have to agree. So I'm just going to go ahead and put both Dawn and War up in the S tier, because they are the two best films in the franchise, in my opinion. They kind of just take what Rise did and really escalate it. They build on the epicness. They build on the character development. The battle sequences are bigger and bolder. It just feels more epic and more cool. And like the way they wrap things up in War, it's just such I don't know, it's a perfect trilogy as far as its building goes, because I know a lot of people don't like War as much as Dawn, but I actually think they're pretty much on par with each other. Obviously, I think Rise is not as good as those two, but as a trilogy, it's really solid. And so Dawn and War are easily the two best films in the franchise, in my opinion. I think they're both excellent. Sorry. Yeah, so there's not as much can be said about these two, because, they're the ones that get talked about the most, and I agree with pretty much everything that they say. I know that War is a lot darker than Dawn, and it goes into like the prison camp side of things, and there's a lot more deaths and things like that, but I really enjoy it because it obviously builds the stakes higher so that the emotion builds with it as well. And so as part of the new trilogy, I think they're going to plan a new trilogy with this Kingdom film. We've got this first one that came out like in 2024, and I only got around to seeing it a couple of weeks ago. And I was expecting to like it. I was expecting to kind of put it on par with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but after watching it, I was actually thoroughly impressed with how much I really loved it. I'm going to put it in the A tier, and I'm going to put it above the original even. Again, people probably hate that I've done that, but I think it's epic, and I think it's great, and I think it's a really good way to continue the previous trilogy, this is now set like 300 years ahead of that, as well as start a new trilogy that's linked back to the previous one, but also starting off on a new story. The visuals are great. Everything looks incredible here. The characters are really cool. I really like Noah and Nova and all the other lead characters in this film. I'm very interested to see where it goes now, because it has a great build-up and a great ending. And it looks like it's going to be a really good, solid trilogy if it kind of is able to do what the last one did. So, yeah, I was really impressed with Kingdom, and I can't wait to see what comes next, whether it's going to be another one from the same director, from Wes Ball, after the new Zelda film or not. But I've heard plans that it's supposed to be coming out next year in 2027, so that would be exciting. But yeah, that's all 10 films, guys. As you can see, it's pretty spread out over the whole list. Like, we've got films in every category. As far as the ones I love these first 4 films. I think that Rise and the remake are both solid films that I enjoy quite a bit. I think the Escape and Beneath are both watchable films that are fine, but I don't really like them that much. And then obviously Battle and Conquest, I'm not a fan of at all. So this is quite different from a lot of lists that I've seen, other than the top 2 always seem to be Dawn and War, and the original. But yeah, let me know down below, guys, if you've seen all these films, how you'd rank them. Let me know your favorites, the least favorites, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.